Picture a world buried in ice, glaciers taller than mountains, winters that last most of the year, a wind that cuts straight through you, the ground frozen solid, giant beasts moving like shadows through the blowing snow, and the temperature so low that if you stop moving for too long, you simply freeze to death. Now picture surviving in that world, with no heating, no down jacket, no insulated boots, no house, no grocery store stocked for winter. And here's the cruelest twist of all. The creature trying to survive this frozen nightmare, us wasn't even built for the cold. We're a tropical animal. We evolved in the warm savanna of Africa. We're hairless. We have no thick fur, no blubber, no natural defense against freezing temperatures whatsoever. By every law of nature, we should have died out the moment the world froze over. And yet, we didn't just survive the Ice Age. We spread into it. We walked straight into the cold that should have killed us, and we thrived. How that's the story today. And it's one of the greatest survival stories ever told. Let's get into it. Let's be clear about how badly the odds were stacked against us. Most animals that live in the cold are built for it from birth. The mammoth had thick wool and a layer of fat. The Arctic fox has dense fur. The polar bear has blubber and a coat designed to trap heat. These creatures evolved over a very long time to handle the cold. Their bodies are the survival gear. We had none of that. Our bodies were built for heat, for sweating, for losing warmth, for staying cool on a hot plane. Drop that body into a frozen landscape, and it's a disaster. We lose heat fast. We can't hibernate. We can't grow a winter coat. Left to our bare biology, an ancient human in the Ice Age would last a single night. So our ancestors faced a brutal choice: adapt or die. And they couldn't adapt their bodies. Evolution is far too slow for that. Instead, they did something no other animal could do. They adapted their world. They used their brains to build from scratch everything their bodies were missing. If you can't grow fur, you make it. If you can't grow blubber, you eat it. If you can't survive in the open, you build somewhere you can. Every single thing the mammoth was born with, the human had to invent. And that, right there, is the whole secret. Let's break it down, weapon by weapon. The first and most important weapon against the cold was fire. By the time the Ice Age really set in, our ancestors had already mastered fire, and in a frozen world, fire is everything. It's warmth, obviously. A tiny pocket of summer you can carry with you and light wherever you go. But it's so much more than that. Fire melts snow into drinking water, because in a frozen world, liquid water is surprisingly hard to find. Fire cooks food, unlocking more energy from every bite, and when you're burning huge amounts of energy just to stay warm, every calorie counts. Fire gives light through the long, dark winter nights. Fire keeps the cold climate predators away. And fire is the center of the group, the place everyone gathers, shares warmth, and stays alive together. Think of fire as a portable sun. A tropical animal can't live without warmth, so we learn to make our own and carry it into the ice. Without fire, none of the rest of this story is even possible. It's the foundation everything else is built on. We couldn't grow fur, so we took it from animals that already had it. This sounds obvious, but it's actually a massive technological achievement. To make real cold weather clothing, you can't just drape a raw skin over your shoulders that rots, freezes stiff, and falls apart. You have to process the hide, scrape it clean, work it for hours by hand until it's soft and flexible, and treat it so it lasts. That's skilled, patient labor. And then comes the truly clever part: sewing. Our ancestors invented the needle. Tiny, carefully made needles out of bone with a hole punched through one end for thread made of animal sinew. With needles, they could stitch separate pieces of hide together into fitted layered clothing, the kind that actually traps body heat and seals out the wind. Not just a cape, but proper garments, hoods, sleeves, leggings, maybe even soft boots. This is enormous. Fitted, sewn, layered clothing is the difference between freezing and surviving. It's basically a wearable version of the fur we never grew, except we could take it off, repair it, and make it better. The humble bone needle might be one of the most important survival tools in the entire Ice Age. So picture it a hairless tropical animal walking through the snow, wrapped head to toe in the fur of the animals it hunted, stitched together with bone and sinew. We didn't beat the cold by changing our bodies. We beat it by getting dressed. Clothing keeps you alive on the move, but you also need somewhere to escape the worst of the weather, somewhere to sleep, somewhere to ride out a storm. So our ancestors built shelter, and they got incredibly resourceful about it. Where there were caves, they used them natural shelters out of the wind that could be warmed by a fire and defended from animals. But the open, frozen plains didn't have caves. There were barely even trees. So what do you build a house out of when there's nothing around but snow and the bones of giant animals? You build it out of the giant animals. On the frozen plains, ancient humans built shelters using mammoth bones and tusks as the frame. Huge curved bones forming the walls, covered over with hides to seal out the cold and wind. Inside, with a fire going and bodies packed close, these shelters could hold real warmth even as a blizzard raged outside. Stop and appreciate how clever that is. There's no wood, no stone, no building material at all. So they looked at the biggest, most dangerous animal on the landscape and saw a house. Hunt the mammoth, and it gives you food, fat, hide for your clothes and your roof, and bones for your walls and tools. One animal could supply almost everything you needed to survive the winter. Which brings us to the heart of Ice Age survival: the giant beasts themselves. In a frozen world, plant food becomes scarce. There are no berries under 3 feet of snow, no fruit on the frozen trees. For much of the year, the gathering that fed people in warmer places just isn't an option. So in the Ice Age, the balance tipped, and big game hunting became absolutely vital. And the prize animals were the giants, the mammoths, the woolly rhinos, the giant deer, the bison. These enormous beasts were walking supermarkets, and they were the key to making it through winter. A single large kill was a windfall like nothing else. It meant a mountain of meat. It meant fat, and remember, in the brutal cold, fat is the best fuel there is, both for energy and for staying warm. It meant hides for clothing and shelter, bones for tools and building, sinew for cord and thread. One mammoth could keep a whole group fed and supplied for a long time. But hunting an animal that size with stone-tipped spears is unbelievably dangerous. You do not do it alone. This was the ultimate team effort. Groups had to plan carefully, communicate, and work together using the landscape to trap the animal, sometimes driving herds into natural traps, coordinating perfectly so no one got crushed. It took patience, courage, intelligence, and above all, cooperation. And that points to the real secret weapon underneath all the others. It wasn't a tool at all. Fire, clothing, shelter, the hunt. Every single one of these depended on people working together. And that, more than anything, is how a fragile tropical animal conquered the ice. Alone in the Ice Age, you are dead. You can't hunt a mammoth alone. You can't keep a fire and a shelter going and gather fuel and make clothing and watch for danger all by yourself. But a coordinated, cooperating group where everyone has a role, can do all of it. The toolmaker makes the spears. The hunters take the giants. Others process hides, sew clothing, keep the fire, mind the children, gather what little plant food there is. Together, the group becomes a survival machine far greater than the sum of its parts. And cooperation runs deeper than just dividing up the work. In a world this harsh, people had to share. If one hunt fed everyone and the next hunt fed everyone, then nobody starved while waiting for their turn to get lucky. Sharing food, sharing warmth, sharing knowledge, looking after the weak, the sick, the young, and the old. That wasn't just kindness. It was the survival strategy. A group that takes care of its members survives the winter. A group that doesn't falls apart. This is the deep truth of the Ice Age. We didn't survive because any one of us was tough. We survived because we were together. There's one more weapon, and it's invisible. It lived inside people's heads. Knowledge. Surviving the Ice Age meant understanding your world with incredible precision. When do the herds migrate and where? Where are the safe places to shelter? Which way is the wind coming? When is the storm season? How do you read the signs of changing weather before it's too late? This knowledge was hard-won over generations and passed down by word of mouth from the old to the young around the fire. A library of survival stored entirely in human memory. And crucially, surviving the cold meant planning ahead. You can't be caught off guard by winter. You have to think about the future to store food when there's plenty, for the lean times when there's nothing, to prepare clothing and shelter before the worst cold hits, to anticipate the migrations and be in the right place to meet them. This ability to imagine the future and prepare for it is deeply human. Most animals just react to the world as it is right now. We could look ahead, picture a winter that hadn't arrived yet, and get ready for it. In a frozen world that punished anyone caught unprepared, that foresight was the difference between life and death. And here's the thing to really feel. None of this ever stopped. The cold didn't take days off. Surviving the Ice Age wasn't one heroic moment. It was an endless, grinding routine, repeated every single day for a lifetime, for generations. The fire that kept you alive devoured fuel constantly, which meant someone was always out gathering wood or bone to burn in the cold and the snow, away from the warmth. Clothing wore out and had to be endlessly repaired and replaced. Frostbite, a bad fall through ice, a hunt gone wrong, a stretch of days with no kill. Any of these could turn deadly fast. There was no margin for error and no real rest. That's the part that's easy to miss. The miracle of surviving the Ice Age wasn't a single clever invention. It was the sheer, relentless effort of getting through one frozen day and then doing it again and again without ever getting to stop. It's worth remembering we weren't the only humans facing the ice. Our cousins, the Neanderthals, lived through Ice Age conditions in Europe long before modern humans arrived, and their bodies had actually adapted somewhat to the cold. They were stocky and powerfully built, which helped them hold heat. They were skilled hunters of big Ice Age game and tough survivors in their own right. In other words, surviving the cold wasn't a single miracle that only happened once. Different kinds of humans found ways to endure the freezing world through some mix of body and, above all, behavior, fire, clothing, shelter, cooperation, and intelligence. We modern humans weren't alone in beating the ice. We were just the ones who, in the end, spread the furthest and lasted the longest. So step back and look at what actually happened here. A warm-weather, hairless, fragile creature with no business surviving the cold at all walked straight into one of the harshest environments the planet has ever thrown at a species and made it through. Not by growing fur or blubber, not by waiting for evolution to slowly reshape its body, but by outthinking the cold. When we needed warmth, we made fire and carried it. When we needed fur, we hunted it, processed it, and sewed it into clothing. When we needed shelter, we built it out of bones and hides. When we needed food, we banded together to bring down beasts 10 times our size. When we needed to survive the future, we remembered, we planned, and we prepared. And through all of it, we did the one thing that mattered most. We did it together. This is, in a way, the whole human story in miniature. We are not the strongest animal, or the fastest, or the toughest. We don't survive by having the right body. We survive by having the right ideas, and by sharing them, and by working as one. The Ice Age didn't just test us, it forged us. It rewarded exactly the things that make us human: intelligence, invention, foresight, and cooperation. So the next time you're cold and you reach for a jacket, or turn up the heat, or step into a warm room, remember where that instinct comes from. Remember the hairless creature in the blizzard who refused to freeze, who looked at a frozen world that should have killed it and decided to invent its way to survival instead. That creature didn't just make it through the Ice Age. It made you. And here's something that surprises a lot of people. The Ice Age didn't just toughen our ancestors up. It pushed them to get cleverer, to invent better and better tools to meet the brutal challenge. This was an age of real innovation. They developed more sophisticated weapons for hunting big, dangerous game from a safer distance. One brilliant example is a tool that acts like an extension of the arm. A launcher that lets you throw a light spear far harder and faster than you ever could by hand. Hitting a mammoth or a bison from a distance where you're much less likely to be trampled or gored. Smarter tools meant safer, more successful hunts. And in a frozen world where every failed hunt could mean going hungry, that was everything. And our ancestors gained one more advantage in the cold. Maybe the most heartwarming one of the whole story. Somewhere in this long frozen chapter, humans and wolves began to come together. Over a very long time, that wary partnership grew into something extraordinary. The first dogs, our oldest animal allies. A hunting partner with a sense of smell and hearing far beyond our own. A guard against danger in the dark. A companion in a hostile world. Two very different pack hunters, human and wolf, deciding they were stronger together than apart. In the depths of the Ice Age, we didn't just make tools and clothing. We made our first friend. But here is the thing that to me is the most astonishing part of all. You think that in a world this harsh, where every ounce of energy had to go towards survival, there'd be no time or room for anything else. No time for beauty, no time for art. Just the grim business of not dying. You'd be wrong, because it's exactly during the Ice Age, in the freezing dark, with mammoths outside and starvation always close, that our ancestors went deep into caves and painted. Stunning, powerful images of the very animals they hunted, drawn by firelight on stone walls deep underground in some of the most beautiful art the human species has ever made. They carved little figurines. They made jewelry from shells and bone and beads ornaments with no survival purpose at all, made simply because someone wanted to be adorned, to be beautiful, to mean something. There's even evidence they made music with flutes carved from bone, the first songs echoing in the cold. Think about what that tells us. Here is a creature fighting for its life against the harshest world imaginable, and instead of only surviving, it stops and it creates. It paints, it decorates itself, it makes music in the dark. That is not the behavior of an animal just scraping by. That is the behavior of a being with an inner life, with imagination, with a need to express something beyond mere survival. And maybe that's the deepest lesson of the Ice Age. It didn't crush the human spirit, it revealed it. When the world did its absolute worst to us, we answered not just with fire and spears and shelter, but with friendship and beauty and art. We didn't merely refuse to die, we insisted on living fully, on finding wonder and meaning even in the coldest, darkest age our species has ever known. That stubborn spark, the one that paints a wall and sings a song while the blizzard howls outside, may be the most human thing about us, and the truest reason we made it through. If this warmed you up even a little, smash that like button and subscribe. A new ancient human story drops every week, and next time we flip the whole script. Long before we were the hunters of giant beasts, we were the hunted. In the next video, we go back to a terrifying chapter of our past, when ancient humans were the prey. Thanks for watching. Stay warm out there. Your ancestors fought hard so you could.